So I watched Uncharted, starring Tom Holland as Nathan Drake and Mark Wahlberg as not Sully. He's not Sully in this movie. He's some other character. I don't know who he's playing, but it's not Sully. And and the movie is fine. It's honestly not terrible. Like, I think it has like a 33% or something on Rotten Tomatoes, which, I mean, I can understand. I can understand, honestly, whatever, 70% of critics like leaning on negative on this, but I don't think it's terrible. Like, I had an enjoyable enough time with it, but it's just kind of a movie, which is what I thought it would be after watching the movie or after watching the trailers. And that is what it is. And that's what I will say. What I feel like, whatever thought you have about the movie going into it, that's probably what you're going to have, like, walking out of it. Like, if you're going into this like, oh, they're not doing this, doesn't feel like the game, this doesn't feel like like my Nathan Drake, Mark Wahlberg doesn't feel like Sully, they're just, like, whatever. If you have those feelings, I don't think watching the movie is going to change your mind. I personally, I'm fine with what they did with Tom Holland as Nathan Drake, because this is Nathan Drake's first adventure, and I think Tom Holland plays a young Nathan Drake, kind of scrappy and, not really, not really like a professional at this yet. And like, I actually think that he plays it like pretty well, and I think it works. But I think, like, the biggest flaw of this movie has to be Mark Wahlberg as Sully, because he sucks in this. Like, he is awful as Sully. And it's mostly due to, I feel like, him just not caring about this movie. Like, he is just sleepwalking through it. He's not awake. He might have insomnia, if I'm being quite honest with you. And he has just none of the charisma of Sully. See that? I caught it because I caught my light because I have fast reflexes like Nathan Drake. And yeah, like, Sully just has, or Mark Wahlberg has none of the core, like, characteristics of Sully, and it's really disappointing because he doesn't have any charisma with Tom Holland. Like, Tom Holland is there trying his best to, like, kind of, spit the mediocre dialogue, mediocre quips that were written for them back at Mark Wahlberg, and Mark Wahlberg isn't giving him anything to work with. And so that's definitely the biggest flaw of this movie, is their dynamic, because it's just, it falls flat. And so, and weirdly enough, I like the actress that played Chloe in this. Like, I thought that her and Tom Holland worked pretty well together, and if this were like a Nate and Chloe movie, it probably would have been a lot better, because they actually felt like they were putting effort into into the role. But yeah, and so I really want to focus on just their dynamic falling flat, because the rest of the movie is just mediocre. Like, it's a generic action movie, And a generic action movie can be fine if you have like strong leads, if you have strong performances that you can, be entertained by. But when one half of your partnership, right, that you're supposed to fall in love with, is as bad as it is, it just ends up falling flat. So I mean that's the thing, because it, like, really, that's all I really have to say about the movie, because everything else is just meh. The action is meh. Like, the plane scene was cool in the Uncharted games, because, wow, this is like an action scene that I can play, that I'm playing it, I'm doing it. Wow. Like, watching it on the big screen, it's just a generic action scene. Like, I'm sorry. And the one, I guess the best scene in the movie is the one that wasn't just them trying to rip something off of the games, and it honestly was the You saw it in the trailers where they're like on the pirate ships and they're like like swashbuckling. I'm like, that's actually pretty fun because it felt like they were like, okay, we're making a movie. We got to come up with an entertaining action scene. We can't just rely on something that's cool in a video game because you're actually playing through it in a video game, you know? Um, and yeah, so like the action overall, it was fine, but there was nothing to write home about. And I mean, the story is just kind of meh. I mean, as far as like what they did with Nate and his like motivations and desires to do things, I thought all that was fine. Like I enjoyed it enough. Like Tom Holland was good in the movie. And I was endeared enough to his Nathan Drake. Again, it's just such a shame that Sully sucked as hard as he did. And yeah, like the villains in the movie, like Antonio Banderas is playing a villain. It's not good. Like I do not care. I never cared at all about the villain. I was never scared of him. Like Antonio Banderas is fine, but it's kind of like Mark Wahlberg syndrome where I don't think he was really trying. I don't think he really cared about his role in this film. But yeah, it is what it is. Uh, and yeah, like there's not really much else to say about the movie because it's just kind of meh. I really think I can leave this off with what I said before. If you're gonna go into this and you want Uncharted the game and you want exactly those characters and you want the great dynamic between Nate and Sully, you're not gonna get that here. But if you're just down to have, a movie that's more or less, the feeling of the games, it's not going to be great, but if you like Tom Holland and you kind of want to see him go on an adventure with Mark Wahlberg, not Sully, Mark Wahlberg, then you might have an enjoyable enough time. So, yeah. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Subscribe, like the video, ring the bell. This is you ringing the bell somehow. I don't know. Bye.